Hello, hello. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If anybody can hear me or see me, can you give me a yes or a thumbs up, please? Hello, hello. Sunshine, is that addressed towards me or everyone else? Hello, hello, hello. There we go. Okay, now I'm guessing y'all can hear and see me. Can somebody give me a yes or a thumbs up or anything else acknowledging this if that is the case? Very good. Thank you, Dr. Price. Very good. Ashness Linguistics. Y'all are asking some, I was just looking back through the comments where y'all were talking amongst yourselves before I came on. And y'all are asking some really good questions, talking about some really good topics that are very tied in a roundabout way to the topic that I titled this live stream for, which was burned out. But let me see, because I'm in a kind of mental thing tonight. I'm very forgetful. So I want to get this exactly right. Hold on. First, Ashley Sheddick says, I wanted to ask one more question. When you saw the face of God and the devil, what step in the path is this? And how do they refer to it in the Bible? Do you know anyone else who experienced it? Do I know anyone personally in real life that has experienced it? Not that I know of, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. But also, the reason I thought I wanted to bring this up is because just because I don't know them doesn't mean there aren't many people who have experienced it, but they're going to experience it through their cultural lenses. Like for me, I was born into Western society in North America in the Bible Belt, the Southern US. I was raised, from the time I came into this world on stories about God and the devil and angels and, all of these things that have been, creating images in my mind and being part of my life in one way or another throughout my whole existence. So that's the cultural lens that I view this thing through. The reason that I'm making a distinction here is because there are other symbols for this in all different cultures that are kind of like symbolically portraying this exact same thing, but from a different cultural lens. Like that's what you're looking at when you see the yin and yang symbol. It's like a little circle with a swirl in it, and half of it's black and half of it's white, and there's a white dot in the black part and a black dot in the white part. And it's all about how, like, when you go far enough one way, it turns into the other way. And the union of opposites is what it is. When you unite opposites, you come up with the entirety of that symbol, which I can't remember what it's called right off the top of my head. But you combine two and embody the all of creation, or the all of divinity and the physical world, everything. Because when you're talking about uniting opposites, you're talking about uniting every opposite, heaven and earth, for example. And what I mean by that is you realize that some people right now, you can have two people sitting in the same room together, and one of those people can be in the Garden of Eden, one of those people can be in heaven, and one of those people can be in hell or can be in purgatory. They're in the same place, but their experience of it is not the same. But what was my point with this? Oh, do I know anyone? But that was what I wanted to point to is, you see these, even that symbol, I'm not crazy about this symbol just because I think one of the reasons it became so popular is because it provokes a reaction in a certain kind of people. But this symbol is the Baphomet statue. You know, the goat statue. It's like a goat, and it's half male and half female, and it's holding all these symbols and stuff like that. I can't even remember what it's all holding, to be honest. It was never really my thing. I know it's holding something, maybe like a caduceus or something like that. I don't know. But that symbolizes the exact same thing. The Baphomet symbol, you know, if you strip away all of the connotations that a lot of people have about it being the devil and stuff like that, and just look at it as what it symbolizes is the same thing that the Tai Chi symbol symbolizes. Or seeing that God and the devil are the same thing. They're two faces or two different ends of the spectrum. You know, I was talking with somebody this week about stuff like that, about how, you know, the Gnostics actually believed that, like, the God of the Old Testament is not the true God. You know, they say, you know, this had nothing to do with, for example, what Jesus was talking about. Well, sort of, but it's a long, drawn out story that we don't really have time to go into. But what they believed is that the God of the Old Testament is what book is it? Is it Second Corinthians? I think it's in Second Corinthians, where it says the God of this world is Satan. It says this in the Bible. It says, I think it's the book of Corinthians. I can't swear to it with 100% certainty, but you can Google it. Like, just Google, type in the word scripture, God of this world. And you may have to look at a few, whatever, but you'll see it's there. It says in the scripture that the God of this world is Satan. And the Gnostics took that very, very literally. They took that to mean that the God spoken about in the Old Testament is the head archon. You know, we talk about these archons, these archonic energies in Gnosticism that they say basically, like, they feed on the energy of humanity. And who knows if they're egregores and if we created them, or, you know, who knows? You know, it's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? You can chase this stuff around forever, and it might be fun, you know, intellectual exercises or whatever, and pondering the ramifications of it, or, you know, all that kind of stuff. Might be something that you enjoy doing. It's not going to help you, like, get any further in practical magic, though. You know, any more than, like, learning the history of a martial art is going to make you any more proficient at actually doing it. But if you enjoy them, then that's great. By all means, pour yourself into that sort of stuff, studying it and looking through different sources and what different people have said about it and all that kind of stuff. You can probably find all kinds of information out there that I don't know about. Just, you know, I really just haven't felt like, since I've been out, like, delving into that much of the intellectual aspect of it. For me, it was always just about doing it. You know, that's what I've always said. For me, doing magic was what I enjoyed. Not like delving off into the intellectual pursuits and, you know, having debates about minutia or any of that kind of stuff. I'm trying to figure out where I was going with this. I had a point. Trying to remember what it was. I don't want to scroll too far down the comments. If y'all are trying to remind me, just because I don't want to lose the questions we were going to talk about. Okay, Ashley, So you're asking a lot of really, really great questions. And some of these I may not be able to answer. Um, I can't remember where I was going with that, Gannicus. Gannicus has reminded me, I was talking about the symbolism and the Baphomet statue, and I can't remember where I was going with it. And it probably wasn't that important anyway. So I'm just going to drop it and go back to what, who asked it a second ago? Hold on. Ashley, she says, how do you know if you're connected to the God of this world or the actual God? This is one of those things, once again, that people use different symbols to interpret. It's spoken about in different ways. What you are asking right now is tied into the concept of the holy guardian angel. People talking about like attaining the knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel. First off, that's not an all at one time, one and done type of thing. Like there's different levels of it. Like there's, I can't even remember what the first one is called. It's something like the sighting or the seeing or the something like that of the HGA. And then the second part is knowledge and conversation. And then the third part would be the marriage of the HGA. What that means, that's what Crowley was talking about whenever he said, when you cross the abyss, you have to give up everything, even the HGA. That's what Crowley said about crossing the abyss. And it is 100% true, but it doesn't mean what it sounds like it means. What it actually means is that I'm going to tell you something that's going to sound bizarre and crazy. Some of the stuff I'm really wary of even talking about anymore. Really wary of it. When you attain the knowledge and conversation of the HGA, what it will be like, it will be like you are talking to God and that you are receiving divine revelations from God. That's what the prophets of the Old Testament are. They are people who are receiving all of these downloads, all of these visions. That's like the prophet Ezekiel. Ezekiel is my favorite. He's the one who described this whole thing about going up to the throne room of God on a chariot. And there's lots of symbolism in there about the heavens and all of that kind of stuff. Where was I going with this? Oh, how do I know you've connected to the God of this world or the actual God? So what did I say doesn't mean what people think it means? Oh, giving up the HGA. That Crowley says you have to give up everything to cross the abyss, even the HGA. I'll just tell you what happened from my experience. And this is one of those things that I'm wary of talking about because it really does make you sound crazy. And there's not one single thing you can do to prove any of it. But if you keep doing these rituals and you reach a certain stage in the process, you do what Ezekiel was talking about. You ascend this ladder up to the throne of God. And this ladder is the elements, the planets, and the astrological work, what the Bible calls the firmament. You climb your way up this ladder, which is exactly what we've been doing in Magnum Opus. It's exactly what they taught in the Golden Dawn. It's exactly what they used to teach in, like when you see, was it Aristotle? Might be, was it Aristotle's model of the universe? If you Google like Aristotle model of the universe with the earth in the center and the planets circling around it, all that kind of stuff, it's describing the same thing that the prophet Ezekiel was talking about. When you climb all the way up this thing. And this is part also why I grew out of really using the tree of life. I use the tree of life for practical magic. Like whenever I'm telling y'all how to do something, like, use different correspondences, like how to invoke Jupiter for this or Venus for that or whatever it is. I always use tree of life correspondences because the tree of life was what was always really, really helpful to me in a practical way, doing magic for things, either changes in myself or in this world or whatever it is. But when it comes to understanding the experience that I went through, how my consciousness changed and the way I experienced all these things that people talk about, like the HGA and crossing the abyss and all of that kind of stuff, which once again is in every true spiritual tradition, like Tibetan Buddhism, any of those kinds of things lead you through the same process. This is the same process also that is in Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey. I mean, if you look at the steps in the hero's journey, and this goes back to one of the questions I wanted to answer from earlier also, and I can't remember who asked it, but in the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell breaks this stuff down into like the different stages. Like the very first stage in the hero's journey is, I believe, I may mangle this, there may be one before this, but I believe it's the call to adventure. That means something outside of your ordinary life intrudes into your life in some way. It disrupts things. And you have to make the choice whether you are going to heed this call. And it'll look different for different people. But are you going to heed this call, or are you going to refuse it? And a lot of times if you refuse it, that makes it even worse because it comes back knocking again. Or it doesn't come back knocking again and you lose the opportunity to experience all the self-actualization that you could have went through, which also ties into the topic of tonight, thing about being burned out. Someone asked before we came on, and I'm sorry, I can't scroll down the comments right now reading or I'll lose my train of thought and forget what we're talking about. But someone asked in the comments, what was it? What was it? Oh, about a mentor. I can't remember exactly how it was phrased, but it was something about maybe a mentor is needed. That's one of the steps on Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. That's also one of the steps that you will have to go on in magic. You don't come into this world knowing magic. You don't come into this world knowing how to do magic. You have to learn it, just like you have to learn to walk, just like you have to learn to talk. Where you learn magic from, all of these things sound like they're given a name, like it's personified. Like at one stage on the path, you meet mentors and guides, is the way he describes them. Mentors and guides. And that personifies it. Like you're going to meet people that's going to mentor and guide you, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Like for me, some of the biggest guides in my spiritual journey were people that I did not meet in real life, but read their books. I received guidance from their books. And that was one of the things that made me want to write about magic, because it made me realize like how big of an impact coming across this stuff has on someone's life sometimes. Like how big of an impact it had on my life. I would not be the person talking to you right now if I had not discovered magic, and almost always in written form. Like ever since I was a child, the first time I ever heard about magic was, I've told this story a million times, how my grandmother used to read those old tabloids. And I remember an ad for in the back of one of these things saying, something like, if you want to learn history or the secrets of the universe, send $5.95 off to this address and we'll send you this book on how to do magic. That was, I read about it. It wasn't a person, a mentor that pointed it out to me or that told me about it. Sometimes our mentors can, it can come in the form of anything. Like it can come in the form of YouTube tutorials. I will, and this is nerdy stuff, I guess, but like when I'm learning something like a new form, so my main teacher that I get this from is an actual person that I know in real life. Like he is my primary martial arts teacher. But I also, like, whenever he shows me a form and days when he and I aren't talking or whatever, and I'm trying to practice it, I look up videos of people doing this form. And through the time of doing this, I've kind of got it fine tuned down to, there were like two guys that I always watch their stuff because of the way they explain these things and make it very easy to understand, and they demonstrate it. And it's one of those weird things, like I don't really care about celebrities at all. It doesn't mean anything to me. I don't find that world fascinating. But at the same time, I kind of geeked out when I went to one of the tournaments in Texas. Like I didn't even know this guy was going to be there. He's at least a master. He might be a grandmaster of this little school in Texas, this little karate school in Texas. But the way I don't know how I even stumbled on his videos, but the way he describes things makes his videos one of the things when I'm trying over and over and over to get something right, I will go to his videos for the way he explains and demonstrates these things, because it usually helps me figure it out. But I met him at one of the tournaments, went up to him, and it was one of those weird things, like whenever I saw him, I felt, a sense of much more excitement than I would have felt if I would have saw like a movie star or something. Because it was someone whose work has had a big impact on my life, but not even in person. So that's what I mean about the mentor thing. Like it doesn't necessarily look exactly like you think it's going to look when you hear the terminology he uses. So, this is a long ass story that goes back to the question that I think it was Ashley asked about. No, it wasn't Ashley. It was somebody before that. I can't remember. I'm sorry. But someone asked, do you need a mentor or a guide? Absolutely. You absolutely cannot do this work without a mentor or a guide. However, that does not mean even that it's somebody you know in real life. It's somebody whose work you are able to use and duplicate and replicate and get information that helps you do this stuff out of. It doesn't necessarily mean it may be somebody, for you that's long dead, not even in this world anymore. But yeah, if you look at it, I mean, that's the thing about books, is when you're reading books, you are, and now, in modern times, watching videos like tutorial videos on YouTube, you are taking in sometimes years of this person's experience distilled down into maybe an hour. It pays off. And my point with that let me, before I branch off into something else, let me touch back for just a second on the title of the live stream, which is Burned Out. And the reason I called it that. I called it that because I've been hearing that from a lot of people lately. You know, the feeling like when you first start doing magic and you start experiencing changes, or you know, you're excited about the potential of it, or all of those things. It's fun doing magic. You enjoy it. You enjoy reading about it. You enjoy talking about it. You enjoy doing the rituals. And sometimes that might last for years. You may love doing it for a couple of years. The time frame for stuff like this is going to be different for different people. But at some point, without exception, you will reach a state where this isn't fun anymore. When you're burned out, when you feel like you've done it a million times and you just want to do something else. Maybe you just want to watch a movie during the time that you would normally be doing magic. Or go for a hike in nature. Just read a book, listen to some music, whatever it is. You just want to do, you just want to live instead of grinding away another day at these rituals. Everybody goes through that. Everybody, without exception, goes through that. And if you stick with it long enough and work your way through that one time, what you'll find two things. Number one is those times will always come around. There's no rhyme or reason to the time frame of how long it's going to be or anything else. You may experience it once every couple of years. You may experience it every couple of weeks. Who knows? Where you just feel like, I don't want to do this now. I'm tired of it. Or you feel burned out by it. Or not even by magic, but just because there's so much going on in your normal life that, this is just something else more exhausting to dump on top of that. I'm saying this because I felt all this stuff before, many times. And those times, like I said, one thing is that they will always come back. The second thing is that if you work your way through them, and this is something I want to talk about for a second, if you work your way through them, the other thing that I realized is that the joy will always return. You, just like the times will come back around when you're burned out and don't want to do this anymore, so will the times when you're excited and joyful and you're just having epiphanies and realizations and you're just on fire about how fun this stuff is. Those times will come back too. But who knows how long it takes? It's going to be different for different people. So there's two ways of looking at this. One is, and different people are going to need different advice at different times. What I would say, number one, is if you possibly can, just do one small act of magic a day. Just hold on to that one thing like it's a life preserver. Just do a 5-minute LBRP once a day. If that's all you're going to do, just do that. Just do an LBRP once a day. You don't have to force yourself to do 2 or 3 hours or anything else. Just do that one little thing once a day. There will be times when you can make yourself suck it up and do that 5-minute ritual. But if you reach a time where I'll say another piece of advice for different people would be this. Look at, we're supposed to be learning from nature, right? That's supposed to be, we're supposed to look at nature and figure out these spiritual laws by the way nature works. My mind just went blank. What was I talking about? What in the world was I just talking about, y'all? What to do. Um, the second thing is if we do study nature, one of the things that we see is that nothing in nature blooms year round. There is nothing in nature that is at its fullest peak all the time. Things have to sleep. Or if you look at the forests, look at the woods, you see the trees all start to turn color and lose their leaves. You see the grass all turn brown and die. Tomato plants don't keep producing tomatoes all year round. It's like the Bible says, to everything there is a season, a time to reap and a time to sow, and on and on and on. Meaning, what? Oh, meaning you shouldn't feel guilty about taking time off either. You should not feel the need to be 100% going at something all the time, because it's not possible. Sooner or later, something will make you rest. Something will make you take time off. Keep in mind, in the Bible, it says that even God rested on the seventh day. Bodybuilders know you don't get bigger on the days when you're working out. You don't get bigger. Your muscles don't get bigger on the days when you're lifting weights. Your muscles get bigger on the days when you're resting. We need rest. And sometimes, Alicia says an ebb and flow, seasons, exactly. There will be seasons in magic. There will be times when you're burned out. So let's say that you're in one of those times. Let's say that you're in one of these times when you just can't even make yourself do an LBRP anymore. And believe me, I 100% understand. There have been times that I have went through and I've just been sick to death of it. I've done that one ritual thousands of times in my life. Multiple times every day. For years. And there were times when I just I could not make myself do it again, at least for a little while. So what you do during those times is, and first off, before I say what it is, this is also tied into something someone said a while ago about the fall, talking about falling. And, I've talked about this on here before, how like when we were talking about the story of Adam and Eve or mankind, like people think this story is saying that mankind fell. It's not that mankind fell. It is that we are continually falling. Like our consciousness is continually falling away from the divine realms until we do something to arrest that process and start to lift it up. If you don't have a goal, something you're focused on, then you're just adrift at sea in this world. And the vast majority of people are, the vast majority of people don't have a purpose to their life. But this thing about what happens when you start doing magic is you arrest your fall. First thing that happens is you stop falling, and gradually, as you do more and more magic, you start to rise back up toward your original state. During times of not doing magic, yes, you will start to fall again. What I mean by that, by falling, is that when you're doing magic, you are accumulating divine light around and within yourself. And the more divine light you accumulate, the more you are going to rise. And what I mean by rise is you'll see this in every area and aspect of your life. You'll just realize life goes better. You realize you don't get as depressed as you used to. You don't get as angry as you used to. Like you're just, life is just a little better. But when you stop doing the rituals, what happens is all of that divine light that you've accumulated around yourself, gradually you use it up. Gradually you consume it. You absorb it and you expend it. You expend it through everything that you put your hands to. This is that thing that Beethoven said about how the highest thing that mankind should be attempting to do is approach divinity, gather its rays, and disseminate them out to mankind. This is the process he was talking about, this expending divine energy. Anything that you do, that divine energy that you have accumulated is going to spill through you and into that. This includes things like your relationships with other people. It includes any artistic endeavors that you do. Now, this does not mean that you're going to automatically be the best at it. Like take up painting and you're going to be the best painter, or that you're even going to have any natural ability at it. It just means that that endeavor will be blessed, that you are going to get something beneficial and worthwhile out of the practice. You are going to get something for the time and the effort that you expend into trying to paint that makes the process enjoyable and worthwhile to you. It is going to contribute to your growth in some way. That's what happens when you expend this divine energy through things. And that's how you can eventually use it up. Once you've used it up, you will start to fall again, like Adam and Eve. But one of the other ways of doing this work, what is magic ultimately? Magic is a one tool that we can use to learn all kinds of stuff. Learn, who or what we truly are, the true nature of our being, the nature of the universe, and things like God and the demiurge and archons and all of that kind of stuff. But ultimately, what magic is, what its purpose should be, is it is one tool that we can use in our quest towards self-actualization, towards reaching our full potential in this world. That's the biggest thing magic is for. We are like seeds that have been planted in this material realm. And we want to bloom. And that's what magic. Yes, Nick says it is living water. Exactly. Yes. Magic is the living water that causes you to sprout and grow. I had a point with this. What was it? Oh, Well, my point was, if you're in one of those times whenever you are so burned out that you just can't do magic anymore, what can you do also to arrest your fall? Well, the fact that magic is a tool to help us achieve self-actualization, reach our full potential, all of that, choose something else to do that also contributes to that, that does that same thing, that has that same goal as magic. For example, for me, it's martial arts. It has the same goal. There's this concept that they call Kaizen, Kaizen, and it means, like, it's this philosophy that means to try to the best of your ability to become 1% better every day. 1% better short-sightedly in whatever it is that you do, but 1%, like, in a bigger picture, in every single aspect of our lives. Like, try to be 1% stronger today than you were yesterday. Try to be 1% wiser today than you were yesterday. You can even take it off into things like trying to be 1% kinder than you were yesterday. Whatever it is, what this concept, this philosophy represents is using our time in this material realm to get 1% better every single day in order to reach our full potential. It's the same thing we're doing with magic. Trying to self-actualize, trying to reach our full potential. Now, different things are going to allow you to do this in different ways. Different things are going to work on different levels of your being. Some things that you might choose to do in place of magic, or maybe just for a short while to take time off of magic and do something else instead because you're just so burned out on it. The thought of doing it again drives you crazy. But for me, it's karate because it works on me physically and I need it. My body is not in the greatest of health due to 20 years in prison, and I've had all kinds of issues, but I believe that my body is stronger right now. I'm going to be 50 in December. I believe that my body is stronger right now at the age of about to be 50 than at any other time in my life. And it feels good. I wish I could have experienced this 30 years ago. The thing that I wish about this stuff is that I would have started it as soon as I got out of prison. I wish I would have started 13 years ago. Maybe it's, I was having a conversation about this with a friend this morning, and he is to be honest, I don't even understand what all this stuff really means, but I know he does like some kind of programming on computer stuff. That's the extent of my knowledge about it. But, I was talking about for him, like that principle of Kaizen, of trying to get 1% better, could come in the form of he loves his job. Whatever it is that he's doing, he loves doing it. So I told him, and this was a conversation that we had. This is why I called this burned out, because this is exactly what we were talking about. Like, he was feeling so burned out. And I said, for you, like, that might come in the form of, look around out there and take a couple of classes on whatever kind of programming it is that you do, so that you're, learning things that you don't already know and accumulating more knowledge about this field that you love, which is eventually going to lead to you, being ahead of everybody else who doesn't have all this knowledge, all that kind of stuff. So that's a way you could do it, through taking classes about something. And it can be about anything. It doesn't have to have anything to do with magic whatsoever. Just do it about something that's going to increase your experience of doing something in the world. Like, for example, learn how to play music. You don't have to be a classical composer. Maybe the only thing you ever learned to pick out is Mary Had a Little Lamb. Or maybe you discover that you really, really love playing music, and suddenly you find yourself obsessed with it and immersed in it, and constantly practicing. And before you know it, you're playing songs that you didn't think you would ever be able to play in your life. It could look like anything like that. But if you do things like this, like maybe take a dance class, that's kind of something I've always wanted to do. Yeah, exactly. Chris Vance says, sometimes, no, that's not Chris. Chris says, now I'm about to start school again in the spring to finish my degree and trying to get into medical school. That's exactly what I'm talking about right there. You, by doing that, are sharpening and working on all the faculties and aspects of yourself that you're also working on if you're doing magic, like for studying and stuff. Like you're having to develop discipline, you're having to develop willpower, all that kind of stuff. Jen says she's planning on taking a dance class too. I've always wanted to. I've always wanted to take something like, I don't know, either ballroom dancing, something simple. Just learn something easy like doing a box step. But that's another one of the things I've always wanted to do. But the point of it is, yeah, the two-step sunshine, the Texas two-step. The point of this is, don't stagnate. Whenever we start to fall, one of the things that starts to happen is we start to stagnate. We stop growing. We stop pushing ourselves. We stop stepping out of our comfort zone. We become old. But if you just push yourself to do something that will allow you to become 1% better or wiser or stronger or faster or more experienced or more knowledgeable than you were yesterday, you're not going to stagnate. See what I'm saying? Yeah, Dustin says it's easier to finish the last mile than it is to run the first 6. Yep. But that was basically it. Yeah, Rodney Smith just talking about weightlifting and bodybuilding and all that sort of stuff. And I love it. I don't do heavy weights because my joints just can't take the pressure of it anymore. When I do like bench presses, I do not use, the bar for bench presses. Like I don't use barbells. I always use dumbbells, the ones where you hold one in each hand. And even for like just doing bench presses like that, like I never use more than like 50 pounds in each hand, 100 pounds total. Or even if I'm doing things, like curls or whatever it is, I'm never going to use more than 20 pounds just because my joints can't take the beating that heavy weight takes on me, especially my shoulders. But I love the way even doing that changes your body composition. Like I like the way I feel better. Yeah, Max says sounds like you need a Bowflex. Remember Chuck Norris used to try to sell those on infomercials back in the day. Um, what did I get off on that subject for? That's a good one, Jen. Yes, exactly. Jen says God, get outdoors. Exactly. Go outside, take hikes, spend time immersing yourself in nature so that you are bathing your energy system in the energy of the natural world. When you are in a place that you really love, there are times here that I experienced this thing. This is why I was, when I was talking about doing the retreat and how like this is now like the only place that I would want to ever do this again. I don't want to travel. I don't want to do retreats around the world or anything, like I thought at one time might be great to do. I have no desire to do that anymore at all. I don't want to fly. But in addition to that, it's just like the location of where we're doing them at here, like the energy of the Hudson Valley. One time when I wrote High Magic, when I finished that book, I've told y'all how I felt like I poured my soul into writing that book. Like the day it was finished, I felt depleted. Like part of me was gone. Like I had put part of my soul into that book, and I was never the same again afterwards. But it was also like when it happened, when it was finished, when it was accomplished, a feeling settled over me that I can't even describe. I just remember looking out the window of the hotel where I was and thinking, this is what it's like when you die. That's the same thing that I feel sometimes here in the Hudson Valley. When I'm looking at things, like I'll be driving down the highway and I'm just looking at this long, just these forests that defy description. It feels like you're in your childhood again. What it feels like here, it feels like having the childhood that you always wanted but never had. That's what living in the Hudson Valley, that's what being in the Hudson Valley feels like. It feels like that poem that I've told you I read on the subway where the woman said, heaven is like the past, but not the past as it was to actually live it, but the past as it is to actually but the past as it is to remember it. Living in the Hudson Valley is like living through the childhood that you remember. But for me, that's one of the things that makes me feel awe, makes me, feel wonder at the beauty of the natural world. Or when I go to these waterfalls, my favorite thing is the waterfalls. There's a ton of waterfalls up here, all over the place. I could drive, 20 minutes in several different directions and arrive at several different waterfalls. And some of them, when you see them, you just sit there in awe. I'm looking forward to going out in winter and seeing them float this year. But that's one of the things for me, do something that immerses you in the awe of being alive. And that's different things for different people. You know, one of the things, for example, that people do a lot around here, and I know they do it in a lot of other places also all across the US, probably pretty much in every state. Like they find people, you find people here putting on haunted houses, you know, for the Halloween season. And, you know, doing stuff like that, it's like it allows you the opportunity to go back and relive things that you thought you had to leave behind. You know, like sometimes, for example, like the joy of Halloween, you know, like it's always fun. Halloween is always fun, whatever. And for me, Christmas, I love Christmas. But we experience those things a different way in childhood than we do when we're adults. Doing doing stuff like that here in this place, like going on a bike ride through the neighborhood near me, it feels like, you know, being a kid in the 80s again and riding through some neighborhood in the 80s. It gives me that feeling again sometimes, like I was describing after I wrote High Magic and I was looking out that hotel room in Denver or in Boulder and thinking, this is what it's like when you die. That's what doing the stuff, experiencing the stuff, being here. Yes, Jen says there's a bittersweetness to that. That's exactly what it is. It's a bittersweetness. Yeah. You know, immerse yourself into things like that. Or museums. Anything that's going to help elevate you on some level. You know, take up gymnastics or yoga or a martial art or pretty much, you know, anything you want to, parkour, it could be anything. But do something that works on your body. And the thing about that is it's also going to, if you work on one aspect of yourself like that, it's going to leak over into other aspects of your life. Like having, if you choose something physical, for example, and you really start to develop your, you know, the self-discipline to stay on that path, that discipline is going to start to leak over into all different other aspects of your life. You're going to become more mentally disciplined. You're going to become more emotionally disciplined. Doesn't mean you're going to be perfect. None of us are ever perfect. Yeah, Jenny Pendel says roller skating. But completing the great work doesn't always have to be a drudge. It doesn't always have to be a strain. It can be fun sometimes. And that's when you usually fall in love with life. All right, I'm going to shut up. I had a few other things I wanted to go over tonight. And well, you know what? Give me 2 minutes. 2 minutes. I wanted to tell you all about something that you might be interested in. One, there's a Buddhist monastery here, like 20 minutes away from me. There's a Buddhist monastery. I made a video today. I want to play it for you. Hopefully you can hear this. I went out to this monastery and I planned on, I was going to sit meditation for a while. You know, it's a full real Buddhist monastery. This is one of the buildings right here. That's just one. That's like the main meditation hall, but there's other buildings around it. And there's statues everywhere. It's absolutely beautiful place. But when I went out there today, I couldn't go in because they were having a retreat. they do these retreats every so often. People just go in there and meditate for like 3 straight days, but they also do a lot of chanting, and I recorded a little bit from outside today, just because I wanted to be able to play it for y'all. Let's see if you can hear this. Can you hear that? I'll play it again. Hear that? Hopefully y'all can hear that. You know, but just being able to go and bathe in that energy. But I couldn't go in there because they were having the retreat today. So I went into the bookstore. And at the bookstore, I got a couple of things. You know, like I said, I can't really read a lot anymore. Something happened to me whenever I got out, and something was broken. But I can still read things, and do occasionally, not very often, but I do occasionally read graphic novels. One of the things I found today, if this is something you might be interested in, is The Life of the Buddha, a graphic novel. Can you see that? I'm trying to get the whole picture in the frame. So you have like the artwork is really great, like the Buddha up top, and the bottom is, I'm guessing, it's like the Buddha's reflection. I'm guessing that's, what did they call him? Mara, the Lord of Illusion that the Buddha had to face. That's Mara at the bottom, Buddha and Mara. But it is a graphic novel that's actually the life story of the Buddha told through graphic novel. Not comic book, you know, not like kid stuff, but like the real story, like the real life story of the Buddha turned into a graphic novel. You know, about going through all the temptations and everything else. I mean, it looks really, really great. So if you wanted to get this, this is by Kieron Moore, Keironmoore, and Rajesh, and I can't even begin to pronounce the last name, but there you can see it. Or just go on Amazon and look for Buddha graphic novel. The other thing that I got, for some reason, y'all know who Sun Wukong is, the Monkey King? I don't know why I've been seeing him everywhere lately. Seems like something's going on with him, but Sun Wukong is the main character. Yeah, Kenneth says there's a game out that's breaking records because of a video game. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. So Sun Wukong is a character in a story called The Monkey King. The Monkey King is thought to be the oldest novel in the world, the oldest complete novel in the world. It was written by a man in the 1500s in China. And it's about this, it says on the back, born from a stone struck by lightning, the wily monkey Sun Wukong was destined to become an immortal legend around the world. His adventures span centuries, crossing both heaven and earth in search of excitement and enlightenment. And I have always been obsessed with Wukong. Let me show you something. If you can see this, my leg. Try to get my leg up here. I even have a tattoo of him that I've had. Can you see that? I've had that tattoo for at least 10, maybe 12 years. That's Sun Wukong, the Monkey King. But it's considered to be the first novel in the world. Super famous. You know, it's considered one of like the most influential like books on life in Asia for a long time. But it's also a graphic novel. It's thick. It's not a thin book. It's a thick book. The Monkey King. It is by Chiko, Chiko, and it's published by Magnetic, is the name of the publishing company. Magnetic. But I will give you a report on them. I'm going to start reading them tonight. I'll give you a report on them. See if there's anything in there that y'all might find interesting. But I'm going to shut up because we've gone over an hour. As usual, I just want to say thank you guys for being with me for another month, another year. I appreciate your support, your energy, everything else more than I could possibly say. I am very glad that y'all are in my life. Thank y'all, and I'll talk to you in a couple days. Have a good night.